I got it.
Okay, great. We are studying Monsters and Magical Sticks again. We're on page 129, chapter 11, called Reality. Really? Consensual realm. Scientists.
I'm sorry. I love this one. Consensual.
Consensual.
This
You
is
like
a
Don't have
great one.
any idea of what it means, but okay.
Oh, wait, we got to know this one. This one's important word to know.
Yeah, so consensual is we agree together. In fact, let's read the first paragraph because that will help it be clear. Scientists, and if it's not at the end, say so, and we'll talk some more. Scientists who study human behavior have argued and continue to argue as to what constitutes reality. If there is a reality, why a reality? And ad nauseum. In spite of this debate, one general consensus has come into being. There exists a consensual reality. As the name implies, it refers to a consensus or general agreement as to what to call certain things and how generally we should respond to those things. We, at least in our society, generally agree that a chair is a chair and what we can do with a chair. Careful. She says, he says, it's a he. Does consensual make more sense to you, Billa? Consensual. It's
I
what
like
we
when they
agree.
use it. I like it when they use it in sex. A man and a woman consent to have intercourse. It's consensual. One doesn't dominate the other. So you're in agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give you a nice visual there.
Okay. We know that we can't, at least at this point in our development, flap our arms and fly. We all agree that a beach is a beach, a tree is a tree, etc. In a very narrow sense, we might state that consensual reality is primarily a function of conscious processes. That is, I see a tree and accept the object as a tree. Unless one of us is marching to a very different drummer, you would agree that a tree is just that, a tree. Thus, we have consensual agreement as to the reality of that tree. However, our individual response to that tree may be more important than our agreement. A tree is a tree, although its meaning to the man who views it, the truth, depends upon his relationship to it. Does it give him fruit or shade? Or is it an obstacle in his path? Surveying Kierkegaard. Internal reality. Our internal or subjective reality, and therefore our response to that tree may be entirely different from that of another person. This factor, internal reality, contributes to our individual uniqueness. No two people will perceive or respond to the beach in exactly the same way. No two people perceive and respond in the same way to a painting. I believe that our internal realities make for an exciting differences amongst all of us. If not for this reality, we would all be gray flannel, button down, pinstripe people, or some other stereotype. A man enters a room. Across the room, he sees a woman. He begins to experience strong arousal and finds himself powerfully attracted to her. Now, consciously, he is only seeing certain physical characteristics, perhaps blonde hair, blue eyes, a nice figure, or whatever. Men feel free to alter the above description, and women fill in your own favorite fantasy. There may be many other women in the room, and we might consensually agree that they are all at least as attractive as that one woman. In spite of that, our hero stands there having his powerful experience and is almost oblivious to the other women. In all probability, he is unaware that in his inner reality, he is responding to a whole past history of unconscious associations. Perhaps her hair is the same as his first puppy love. Her lips are like those of the first girl he ever kissed. Her smile is that of the first woman he ever had sex with. In reality, he is not responding to her at all. In effect, seeing her caused him to regress through history and past experiences with women. And his inner reality then became more real and important than his outer or consensual reality. Within his consensual reality, there is no knowledge of that woman, who she is, what she likes or is like. In fact, she may have a personality he can't stand. In spite of all that, he is standing there, his heart beating rapidly, his palms sweating, his mind locked totally on her, while he is desperately trying to figure out ways of meeting her. You might now ask yourself, which reality is real, at least for him? Everything we see, feel, hear, and know is tempered, perceived, filtered, and responded to based on our internal belief systems. That's from chapter 5. The way we have learned to see, interpret, and respond is individual for each of us. The unconscious mind's inner reality may be entirely different from that of our conscious mind's consensual reality. I'm going to read that again. The unconscious mind's inner reality may be entirely different from that of our conscious mind's consensual reality. In his work, The Split Brain in Man, Gazniga touched lightly on this topic when he stated, "It is as if the cranium contained two separate spheres of consciousness," which plasticity is saying is the truth, or is the way it is. The next section says monsters and magical sticks, which happens to be the book that we're reading. When my son was about 3 or 4, he decided that his baseball and football became monsters at night when the lights were turned off. He saw them coming to life. They looked evil and they were trying to get him. Now, rationally, that makes no sense at all. Our consensual reality knows that it's not real. My wife and I attempted to explain to him what was real and what was not. This is important. He listened very intently, and when we finished, he said, "But they're coming to get me." For whatever the reasons, his unconscious mind had created this inner reality, and it had suddenly leapt out to become his outer reality. Logical, factual, linear, left hemisphere explanations accomplish the sum total of nothing. Boy, that's important to know. We then decided to become illogical. Some might call it creative, to solve the problem. We went to a local building supply store and obtained a piece of wood dowling, 2 feet long and 1/2 inch in diameter. We wrapped the dowel in purple velvet and put a little gold tassel at one end. Next, we purchased the kind of box one will put roses into and placed the soon-to-be magic stick inside. We brought the box home and explained to our son that we had been to see a special doctor called the Magic Doctor. We told him that the magic doctor had made a magic stick that would scare away all the monster balls. We then told him the magic words that the magic doctor had given us. We explained to him that for 2 or 3 nights, he was to point the magic stick at the monster and say the magic words. That night, we all went into his bedroom and went through a solemn ceremony of opening the box and presenting him with the magic stick. He took the stick and with great determination went around the room. At each corner of the room, he stopped, pointed the magic stick, and said the magic words. That night, he slept without his previous nightmares and sudden awakenings. The second night, he went into his room alone and repeated the magic ritual. After the third or fourth night, he put the magic stick in a corner and stopped using it. He slept without problems and no longer talked about monsters. About 2 weeks later, he gave us the stick and said he no longer needed it. The moral of this story is, since his unconscious processes based on his belief systems created his inner reality of monster balls, it took his unconscious processes to create an inner reality that believed in a cure more powerful than the monster balls to solve the problem. Traditional approaches would have entailed reasoning it out and proving that the monster balls did not exist, or plumbed the depth of his feelings, or helped him to act out. Pick one: fear, anger, hostilities, or insecurities. Then in several months or years, he would have been able to cope with the problem. Instead, within a matter of a few days, he not only learned how to solve the problem, he had solved it. You want to talk about this a little bit? No? This will fit us beautifully. All right, this part is titled Craziness and Creativity. To me, the unconscious mind and its inner reality is a fascinating, creative, dynamic, and exciting place. It has been said that the unconscious process is similar to that of a schizophrenic process. I believe, however, that the so-called schizophrenic process, directed toward the solving of problems and the discovery of that which is new, is the creative process. This same process, turned toward building limitations and fears, can be called craziness. To paraphrase George Santayana, I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, creativity is merely craziness put to good use. Creativity is merely craziness put to good use. Another personal story might make the point even more clear. Many years ago, we lived on the second floor of a 2-story apartment building. My daughter, who was 3 at the time, had developed the habit of jumping off her bed over and over, playing some private game that only she understood. One night, our downstairs neighbor came up to complain about the noise. My wife went into our daughter's room and said, "Don't do that anymore. The man downstairs is getting very angry." Later that night, our daughter became very upset. When we tried to calm her down, she told us that the man who lived in the rug was mad at her and was going to hurt her. We attempted to explain the concept of upstairs, downstairs, but she was too young to understand. We even took her downstairs to show her where the man down below lived. All she could or would understand was that the man in the carpeting was mad at her for jumping on him. Now, we know as adults that that's ridiculous. We adults, we who think logically, know that a man can't live in the carpet. We logical adults who throw salt over our shoulder, who knock on wood when we have good fortune, who step around ladders and step over cracks, knew that those little childish beliefs have nothing to do with us. That's why this book has no chapter 13, really. Really? Images of reality. As we stated earlier, when a patient enters the therapist's office, he brings with him his inner belief systems, a process of his past learnings, experiences, and individual realities. This individual lives in a basically the same outer reality as the therapist and has many of the same opportunities. However, that person's inner reality may be such that he is blocked from seeing the opportunities and options that are available. In effect, she has been hypnotized or has hypnotized herself into seeing that which she has already seen, hearing only what she has already heard, and feeling only that which she has already felt. Let us remember, we never deal with reality per se, but rather with the images of reality, that is, with interpretations. While the number of potentially possible interpretations is very large, our world image permits us to see only one, and this one, therefore, appears to be the only possible, reasonable, and permitted view. Furthermore, this one interpretation also suggests that only one possible, reasonable, and permitted solution. And if we don't succeed at first, we try and try again. Or in other words, we resort to the recipe of doing more of the same. The therapist who insists on attacking the patient's belief systems directly is using a hammer as her only tool, and will, as a result, treat the patient as if he were a small nail. Since there could, I'm sorry?
Can you slow down a bit?
Do you want me to repeat that, Billa?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay, the therapist who insists on attacking the patient's belief system directly is using a hammer as her only tool, and will, as a result, treat the patient as if he were a nail. Is that metaphor clear?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Since there could well be an inner reality of jumping off a bed and causing the man who lives in the carpet to get angry, attacking the patient's belief system directly is not, and in most cases, going to help. It may even hurt and result in that great escape clause, resistance. Devising an unconscious process that uses the same creativity that produced the problem to solve the problem will be a much more effective approach. In addition, it's a lot more fun for the therapist as well as the patient. Hypnotic monster. A woman who suffered from severe anxiety whenever she was in relationship with a man sought my help. She described her reaction as a feeling of drowning or suffocating and claimed she actually experienced those sensations physically. She had been working on her problem for just over 2 years and had, in her opinion, made good progress. She understood the dynamics, had insight, and felt stronger in handling the bad feelings. She believed that she was now ready to get rid of the problem once and for all. She acknowledged that her problem made no sense logically. She had read extensively on the subject of psychology, therapy, and interpersonal relationships. In spite of her efforts, she felt stuck and said, "I'm beginning to lose all hope." During her second session, I helped her into the state that doesn't exist, hypnosis. I asked her to go back to a time when she had experienced those bad feelings and to signal me by raising the first finger of her left hand, and she could actually feel the sensations. After she signaled and was evidencing some discomfort, I told her to allow her creative mind to create a horrible monster, to see it clearly and to feel all the fears as it was trying to destroy her. She was then asked to imagine that there was no safe path of escape. Within a few minutes, there were the obvious signs of discomfort. Her breathing rate increased rapidly. Sweat appeared on her forehead and upper lip, and she was evidencing agitation. At that point, I told her the following: it's up to you to decide whether to knock your monster out or to wiggle and chase it away, or to flap your ears and simply fly away and leave the monster where it belongs, in the past. Now, take your time, because your unconscious mind may want to use a combination of those things, or it may even have better ways. Now, we all know that not one of those instructions makes sense logically. And yet, in spite of the nonsense, something began to happen. Within a few minutes, she took a few deep breaths and exhaled very slowly. Her body began to relax, and then she started to giggle. 5 minutes later, she opened her eyes and smiled a beautiful smile. She told me that for some reason, she knew that she didn't have to be afraid anymore, and that she didn't understand it. But somehow she had a gut feeling where the monster came from and how to get rid of it. Why don't I read the very last paragraph? Or Bill, should we stop